I lived was a homestead in Haines, Alaska. I think this is why Discovery jungle behind them in the rearview mirror, unpredictable future, make them happier. They're looking for a simpler life.
Marty Rainey built a name as the tough, fearless face of homestead survival, a man who seemed untouchable in the wilds of Alaska. But beneath that rugged exterior lies a story tangled with controversy, lawsuits, and long-hidden secrets that have left many fans wondering, was the legend of Marty Rainey all it seemed? At 68, Marty finally acknowledged what viewers had suspected for years. What really happened behind the cameras? What truths did Marty confirm? And how have those revelations reshaped the legacy of Homestead Rescue's most iconic figure? The rise of a wilderness legend. Marty Rainey's story begins far from fame, in the harsh wilderness of Alaska, where survival was a daily test. At 18, he left Washington, not for comfort, but for authenticity. His first encounters with the wild came through grueling work in logging camps on Prince of Wales Island. Loud, dangerous, and relentless. Where others might have quit, Marty found purpose. The unforgiving environment shaped his resolve and cemented his devotion to Alaska's frontier. Life in interior Alaska demanded endurance and ingenuity. Marty faced brutal cold, isolation, and constant risk, transforming from a young dreamer into a hardened survivalist. He never sought escape from difficulty. He met it head-on, earning respect in backcountry circles long before television found him. Beneath his rugged exterior, the wilderness molded something deeper. Every frozen night, every log cut, every storm endured bound him closer to the land. For Marty, Alaska was more than a place.
Welcome to Alaska. Again, Alaska's got 3 million lakes.
It was a calling. His connection to it became almost spiritual, turning hardship into belonging. He wasn't merely living off the grid. He was living as part of it. From the start, Marty made it clear. The wilderness wasn't a challenge to conquer. It was home. The late 1970s marked a turning point when Marty met Molly, a partner who matched his hunger for adventure and resilience. Together, they envisioned a life far removed from civilization's comforts, choosing to build a homestead in one of the most remote corners of the state. Their decision forged a family forged in trial and triumph, built on grit and mutual purpose. This commitment was more than survival. It was a declaration of independence against overwhelming odds. Marty's story, however, was never just about conquering nature. It was about becoming part of its rhythm, learning hard lessons through trial and error, and laying the foundation for a legacy that extended beyond personal achievement. Over time, that rugged individualism evolved into a name recognized for skill, determination, and an uncompromising will to persist. The nickname survival expert followed Marty through decades, but equally so did myths and whispers that hinted the story might be messier beneath the surface. His rising fame brought not only admiration, but curiosity, skepticism, and eventually controversy. These undercurrents began swirling quietly as his name circulated outside Alaska, signaling the complex road that lay ahead. Fans and skeptics alike recognized Marty as emblematic of a frontier spirit that many wished still thrived. His reputation as someone who could teach, guide, and survive in the wild seemed unassailable, yet questions lingered. Had everything on screen reflected genuine struggle, or was there more to the story that cameras never showed? The truth about Marty's rise, as complex as Alaska's landscape itself, would emerge slowly, revealing that survival sometimes means navigating battles far from the wilderness, in courtrooms, on social media, and in the court of public opinion. The foundation Marty and Molly laid by building their homestead would become the heart of the family's story and the stage for future challenges. Building the Rainey homestead. Building a homestead in Alaska's unforgiving wilderness tested Marty and Molly Rainey beyond endurance. With no electricity, running water, or modern comforts, each day demanded ingenuity and grit. The land was both teacher and adversary, offering resources but also threats, from brutal weather to wildlife and isolation. Through hardship, the Raineys learned to turn struggle into strength. Those early years were filled with labor and uncertainty, constructing shelter, securing food, and surviving endless winters required skill, patience, and faith. Doubt was constant, but small victories, a steady fire, a successful hunt, kept hope alive. Each triumph became proof that they could truly build a life in the wild. Marty and Molly's relationship grew alongside their bond with the land. Marty thrived on risk and challenge, while Molly's calm, steady resolve grounded the family. Their partnership struck a vital balance of courage and caution, forming the foundation for their survival. Their children, raised amid mountains and forests, learned lessons no classroom could teach. Without malls or movie theaters, their world revolved around rivers, axes, and snow. They gained practical wisdom, how to track animals, chop wood, and respect nature's rhythm. The wilderness wasn't just their home, it was their greatest teacher. The homestead was not only a residence for Marty, but it was also a place where he could teach the children life skills that would be based on responsibility, creativity, and resilience. He not only trains his kids to survive the wilderness, but also to cooperate, discuss, and find solutions together. These traits resulted in a legacy of self-sufficiency and practical wisdom that has been passed on to the next generations. Marty, besides living off the land, revealed another facet of his personality through music.
Special to me, you give purpose to my life.
Which was a mixture of his rugged life experiences and lyrical storytelling. His music, which started to attract attention during the 1990s, was an ode to both the wild beauty and the harsh conditions of Alaskan life, thereby bringing the essence of the land to the larger audiences through advertising and films. One of his most private creations, a handmade guitar, was the embodiment of the interconnectedness of his roles as a homesteader and a musician. Marty's enthusiasm didn't stop with his family, but rather expanded significantly over the years. He not only went to conquer the hardest mountains on the continent, like Denali, but also to get the humility and patience that are the most necessary virtues for dealing with such great titans. These mountains turned into another ground for his training, a reminder of the difficulties and the virtues that Marty was dreaming of handing over. The Rainey household was the melting pot for a life fully lived, where the hardships and achievements were all part of a narrative of endurance, love, and commitment. It was this profound history that eventually paved the way for their entry into the limelight. As their private story gained weight, Marty and his family stepped into a new chapter with the arrival of television cameras. Transition to television fame. When Homestead Rescue premiered in 2016, it introduced millions to the Rainey family's hard-earned knowledge and rugged lifestyle.
Homestead Rescue is a reality TV series focused on helping people to start living a new life off the grid.
But for Marty and his kids, this was not a sudden transformation. It was simply the next chapter of a story decades in the making. The family's knowledge and authentic connection to the land stood out in a television landscape crowded with scripted reality. Marty's no-nonsense style and genuine expertise resonated with viewers hungry for real survival skills rather than staged drama. His gruff charm made him a natural mentor and leader on screen, a man who had truly lived every lesson he taught. Accompanied by his children, Matt and Misty, who brought their own strengths in building and food sustainability, the show presented a family united not just by blood, but by mission. Homestead Rescue wasn't entertainment as usual. It was a race against time for families fighting to hold on to their dreams of off-grid living. Each episode brought high stakes, where failure wasn't just disappointing, it could be life-threatening. This urgency gave the series a pulse that kept audiences engaged, rooting for Marty's team to succeed against the wilderness's relentless challenge. Behind the scenes, the work was grueling. Remote locations tested crews with unpredictable weather, wildlife, and technical setbacks. Yet the Raineys' experience and dedication kept the show anchored in authenticity. Their presence was a reminder that wilderness survival is not a spectator sport, but a demanding, often exhausting endeavor. Marty's rise to fame expanded his legacy beyond Alaska to a national audience. He became a symbol of tough independence and hard-earned freedom. The show's success reflected a growing cultural appetite for stories that celebrated resilience and self-reliance in an increasingly connected world. Despite the spotlight, the Raineys brought their genuine family dynamic to the screen. Marty's demanding mentorship balanced Misty's focus on practical gardening and sustainability, and Matt's expertise in construction and design. Together, they offered a blueprint for modern homesteading that was as much about community and care as it was about rugged survival. The rise of Homestead Rescue also magnified the Raineys' story, exposing them to both intense admiration and intense scrutiny. As their audience expanded, so did the questions about just how real and unscripted their adventures truly were. This tension between authenticity and entertainment would become one of the defining challenges of Marty's public life. Yet for all the critics and controversies that would follow, the show affirmed for many that the Rainey family embodied a way of life rooted in respect for nature, hard work, and the unyielding spirit needed to thrive in the wild. The journey from private homesteaders to television figures opened new doors and new conflicts that now demanded attention. Lawsuits and controversies. As Homestead Rescue climbed in popularity, cracks began to appear beneath the surface of the show's rugged authenticity. What started as murmurs online soon grew louder when several families featured on the series filed lawsuits, challenging how their stories were portrayed. Contestants claimed that scenes were exaggerated, problems staged, or solutions rushed merely to meet production schedules. These allegations unsettled fans who had trusted the Raineys to deliver genuine wilderness rescue expertise. One of the earliest and most publicized cases came from Kim and Josh Zabek, owners of Revolutionary Roots Farm in Virginia. Their episode showed pigs running wild, wreaking havoc on their property, and painting the couple as overwhelmed and desperate for help. After the episode aired, Kim publicly contested the portrayal, saying their farm was misrepresented and dramatized to make the Raineys look like heroes coming to the rescue. She insisted that much of their competence and preparedness had been edited out to increase the tension. The Zabeks escalated their grievances by filing a lawsuit accusing Homestead Rescue producers of deceptive editing and defamation. Though the case never advanced far, it ignited widespread skepticism among viewers and online communities, shaking trust in the show's authenticity. The lawsuit became a symbol of how reality TV can blur truth for drama. Another controversy came from Ren and Innie, whose 2018 episode depicted their homestead as collapsing and desperate. They later revealed that, before filming, they had already received a professionally built cabin, a detail omitted from the show. Producers instead emphasized the most dilapidated areas of their property, reshaping the story to heighten the Raineys' role as rescuers and fueling doubts about the show's honesty. Although the couple's lawsuit did not directly accuse the show of producing fake content, it unveiled the misleading power of selective editing in the same way as outright manipulation. It generated a question that was of more importance. Was the show a real depiction of off-grid survival, or just a dramatization made for TV? The border between difficulty and entertainment got more obscured with every episode. In the reality television sector, this battle between realness and engagement has always been there. The storylines are commonly determined by the producers who want to show desperation and triumph, making the homesteaders look like struggling families just waiting to be assisted by experts. Marty and his family were spot on in this storyline, coming in as rugged saviors. However, a lot of the later featured participants protested, saying they were misrepresented and referring to their portrayals as being unfair and humiliating. For Marty, the criticism was a new battle of a different kind. He was no longer the conqueror of the wild, but rather the one whose integrity was questioned in the courtrooms and online discussions. Even though most lawsuits came to nothing, the skepticism remained and would come up again with every new season. Eventually, the controversies over Marty Rainey's image went from being unshakable to being the least favorable to him. The wilderness expert's legend got mixed up with accusations of staged drama and narrative selection, which were, in a way, a testimony that surviving fame can be as difficult as surviving nature. Behind the scenes and far from the camera's glare, Marty faced personal challenges that rippled through his family and public image in unexpected ways. When privacy meets the public eye, one of the most unusual confrontations Marty Rainey endured came from the sky, not the wild. A persistent drone hovering over his property in Hatcher Pass, Alaska. When Marty spotted it while sharpening a chainsaw, what might have been a minor annoyance quickly became a personal invasion. Known for fiercely guarding his privacy, his patience wore thin as the drone followed him, prompting him to seize and damage the device. The drone's owner, Justin Presley, claimed it was merely a test flight, but to Marty, it felt like surveillance. The incident escalated quickly, drawing law enforcement and sparking a legal debate over airspace rights on private property. A state trooper later admitted the laws were murky, leaving no clear resolution. Though legally inconclusive, the episode dented Marty's reputation, with media framing it as a clash between a rugged TV star and a curious hobbyist. Soon after, older controversies resurfaced. In 2020, a decades-old song from Marty's early music career, Adam and Steve, came under fire for lyrics seen as mocking same-gender relationships and transgender identities. What had once been forgotten became a public relations nightmare for both Marty and the Discovery Channel.
Discovery Channel star, if we can call you that.
You can't.
Okay, thanks. We'll never do it again.
The network swiftly removed the song from streaming platforms, while Marty stayed silent, offering no statement or apology. That silence split audiences. Some dismissed the issue as dated. Others found it impossible to separate the man from the message. His refusal to respond deepened rifts among fans and critics alike, casting a shadow over his image as a rugged pioneer and exposing the complexities beneath the legend. Amid these public challenges, whispers about the Rainey family's health began to spread. Viewers noticed changes, weight fluctuations, absences, and cryptic social media posts, sparking speculation about hidden illnesses, particularly regarding his daughter Misty. After mounting concern, Misty addressed the rumors, clarifying that her appearance changes were due to pregnancy and diet, not illness. Even so, speculation lingered. Attention shifted to Marty's wife, Molly, whose rare appearances fueled theories ranging from health issues to a desire for privacy. The family's refusal to comment only intensified public curiosity. Marty's son, Matt, also drew attention as fans noted his fluctuating weight and tired demeanor. Rumors of stress and exhaustion circulated online, adding to the scrutiny surrounding the family.
Lady and her family did build the cabin. First problem was water.
Their silence left some sympathetic, but others skeptical, questioning the toll fame had taken behind the scenes. These personal and public pressures merged with growing doubts about Homestead Rescue's authenticity. Allegations that some rescues were staged or exaggerated spread, eroding viewer trust. Though the Raineys insisted their challenges were real, skepticism persisted. As the scrutiny deepened and silence became Marty's shield, curiosity shifted toward the man himself, his thoughts, his regrets, and the truths he chose to leave unspoken. The Confessions of Marty Rainey. At 68, Marty Rainey has weathered decades of scrutiny, and amid a swirl of rumors, he has quietly begun to address some of the whispers that long surrounded his name. Known for his reserved nature, Marty's subtle confirmations and silences have often spoken louder than any public statement. Rather than deny controversies outright, he has allowed time and endurance to serve as his defense, accepting that some of life's messiness is inevitable. Fans and critics alike now study every word and gesture for meaning, Marty's handling of controversy has been marked by a mix of restraint
Come on, you recognize the white hat, the white shirt. Marty Rainey, of course, from Homestead Rescue.
and quiet confidence. He never rushed to refute claims that Homestead Rescue staged scenes or exaggerated hardships, nor did he issue lengthy clarifications. Instead, he let his continued work and family commitment speak for him. This choice left room for speculation, but also revealed a man burdened by the dual challenges of surviving both the wilderness and public scrutiny. Despite his guardedness, flashes of self-acceptance occasionally surface. His decades of homesteading, countless expeditions, and deep family roots reflect someone who embraces both triumphs and flaws. Fans see not a flawless icon, but a man shaped by hard lessons, personal contradictions, and an unusual public life. This complexity has become essential to understanding the legend behind the name. Marty's disagreement with one of his most significant silences has to do with his controversial song Adam and Steve, which was said to be ridiculing the LGBTQ+ identities. The church that he used to be part of turned its back on him, while Marty remained silent. He could have been signaling a barrier between his former and current self, or he might be the latter option of being the one resisting the public judgment. The whole issue brought back the topic of public accountability in an age that is open to all forms of transparency. Furthermore, the speculation about the family's health and privacy contributed to the situation. Misty said that her changes in appearance had nothing to do with illness, but with pregnancy, which was the very rare instance when the Raineys talked about the rumors. Their way of handling the situation has been a mixture of being open and being quiet, and this has made the demarcation between public and private life increasingly hazy. The ordeal of a mixture of controversies and silence has considerably modified Marty's public image. Earlier, he was just a tough survivalist in the eyes of many, but now a man who knows very well how to walk the difficult line between being true to himself and being famous. His narrative reveals the larger story about the present-day situations of celebrities, that their visibility amplifies both positive and negative reactions. Marty, however, is still very much with us through his appearances in Homestead Rescue and his commitment to living the homesteading lifestyle, which is an indication of his strength. He is still courageous in his beliefs, and the furor over his fame is no longer an issue. In a way, the saga of Marty Rainey is just one about not only the vanquishing of nature, but also the vanquishing of the world's scrutiny over one's life. Marty Rainey's journey shows a rugged life shaped by survival and scrutiny, a reminder that even legends have flaws. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more tales of extraordinary lives. And before you go, keep exploring. Watch the next video on your screen for another adventure worth your time.